Welcome back, pet parent. I am really excited to bring today's guest to you. Before I introduce him, I do want to just let you know a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. You know me at this point. If you don't, hi, my name is Jessica. If this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, welcome. I am a certified canine and feline nutritionist, a pet health coach, and positive reinforcement dog trainer. And on this podcast, we talk about everything holistic health for your pets, because when we know better, we can do better. So we talk a lot about nutrition. That's my favorite thing in the world to talk about. And I love bringing on brands. You know how particular I am about the guests I bring on. I love bringing on brands that I feel like I align with, that I can bring to you to help educate you a little bit more and why we do the things we do. It's really easy to walk into, hopefully, an indie pet store and grab something out of the freezer and put it in your dog or cat's bowl. But the why behind what we do is what drives me and what I want to put out into the world for other people like me to continue learning. Brad Clinthorne with Steve's Real Food is here with us today. And Steve's Real Food has been around since 1998. Is that right, Brad?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, Steve Brown created, as far as I know, the first commercially available raw food diet for dogs and cats.
Yeah, and I've actually gotten to meet Steve a couple of times. I feel like the older he gets, the more intense he gets. But Brad, thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to just tell us a little bit how you got involved with Steve's and what you do for the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I fell into the pet industry by accident in 2012. I had been working in the film industry and I got sick of living out in California. The rest of my family was home in Michigan. I was traveling all the time. And I just got sick of the industry too. So I came back to Michigan for a reset, started working in a pet store. I always loved animals. I grew up surrounded by them. And I immediately saw an issue. I saw what everyone was dealing, especially 10 years ago, was dealing with, where every single pet that came into the store had a problem. My dog is itchy. My dog has allergies. My dog's allergic to this. My dog's allergic to that. My cat throws up all the time. My cat has diarrhea. My cat doesn't want to eat anything. Every pet was plagued with these issues. And at the same time, there were 100 brands on our shelves. And so it's like, why are none of these making a difference? I started to discover that switching people to different, back then I was using processed foods, switching people to different foods and up different tiers made a difference. And it took me a few years before I really discovered raw, fresh food. And at that point, I was running a little store in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I started studying real fresh food because I used to go home every night and I would study food and study pets and study physiology and all this stuff. And there was something that just wasn't clicking. And it wasn't until I discovered fresh food that missing piece was just filled in. And I could stop moving people between different kibbles and things like that and finding temporary solutions. And instead, I discovered this whole world of fresh food where these solutions would stick, where it would really actually help pets. And so from that point, I was still in that store, running that store for about 5 years. And I helped hundreds of pets during that time. It was such an amazing feeling. And I absolutely loved being able to make a difference in their lives just with these simple ideas. Just feed your pet real fresh food. And of all the brands that I carried, Steve's was the one. Steve's was the one that aligned with my values. I always say you have to look beyond the bag. It's not just the food in the bag. It's not just the ingredients on the label. It's easy to write chicken on 1,000 different bags. But what exactly that chicken is, where it comes from, that chicken's journey is different for every single bag. So you have to look beyond the bag. And so Steve's just absolutely aligned with me, but more so, it was the most successful brand I had in the store. It was the food where I could switch a pet onto it. I knew they would do well. I knew they would transition onto it smoothly. And I knew 8 months, 10 months, 2 years down the road, that pet would be doing great. And there wasn't any other brand that I could say that about and at the same time really aligned with, So in 2020, I reached out to Steve's and I said, "Hey, I would love to be able to touch more pets with this. I have saturated this store. I can every pet here is eating some form of fresh food, and that's not completely true. But I felt like I wanted a bigger platform and I wanted to reach more people. So I got a hold of Steve's and I said, if you ever have an opening, let me know. And they said no. But then a few months later, they got a hold of me. And so I started working with Steve's in 2021. At that point, I was doing sales. Um, Now I do public outreach. And so I do everything I can to reach people with the idea of feeding fresh food and not feeding Steve's, but feeding fresh food. That's the important thing. So I help develop the educational programs. I help with all the wonderful podcasts and interviews and all of that stuff. I get to go out and just talk to people about feeding fresh food. And it's the best thing in the world because I know that I'm helping pets. And that is my mission now. That's my life's work now, is helping people, helping translate that idea, being a voice for dogs and cats that, hey, we need some fresh food. We need some real stuff.
That's amazing. Resonate with that so much, which is why I have this podcast.
Right. Yeah. We had one just like this over at Steve's, except probably a little less interesting.
Oh, no, I'm sure. Well, and I was just looking at, there's a raw university that Steve's has that
Yeah.
I
So
am
last
definitely.
year, that was most of my job, was developing Raw U. And we are
Listen,
so proud of that. It is so cool. Thank you for bringing it up too. We brought in like some amazing experts, Dr. Judy Morgan, Dr. Ian Billinghurst, just some fantastic minds from all across the pet industry and people who really care about pets. And they came in and lended us interviews and sound bites as well to help us build just this beautiful kind of start to finish. I don't know what to feed to. I'm one of the smartest nutrition people in my Facebook group or in my family.
yeah,
So it was so much fun developing that free video course.
awesome. So we brought up Steve Brown because he founded this company, and I mean, he and Dr. Billinghurst both, I think, are just
The
two
father and
people.
godfather or grandfather of Raw. Yep, absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. For people who may not be familiar with Steve and his story and the story of how Steve's Real Food started, can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I have heard so many different versions of this story, honestly. I'm going to tell you my favorite version,
Okay.
but there's several different, and I'm not Steve, so I can't tell the real one. But I am pretty sure I heard him tell this one before, where he was so he was the inventor of Charlie Bear. These fantastic little training treats, very low calorie. And that kind of really got him into the pet industry. They were very successful. And, he at the same time was very interested in formulating. And he was brilliant when it came to, he created the biggest database at the time of nutritional data on ingredients. He was just so into it. And so people would bring him in to tour their companies. They'd bring him in to tour their dog food manufacturing facilities. And one day he's touring a facility and he's got his dog Zach with him. And he pulls some kibble fresh off the line and it's still hot. And he offers it to Zach. And Zach goes, "Nah, that's not food." He goes, "Wait a minute. Why won't he eat it? It's dog food. It's fresh. Shouldn't you like it?" And he found out they hadn't sprayed on the palatability spray yet. The spray that makes food actually, processed food actually taste good. And so it probably tasted like cardboard or something like that. And Zach was like, "No, I don't want any part of that." But that got Steve thinking, why are we tricking our pets into eating this? And so he took all of this amazing knowledge that he had. He's an incredibly brilliant guy, and he still is today. And he took this massive, he built this massive nutritional database where he had more information on ingredients than anyone else in the world at the time. And he put all of this together and spent, I heard it was something like 4 years developing these fresh raw food formulas that are only made from food, no added synthetic vitamins or minerals or anything like that, just real food. And so in 1998, he launched Steve's Real Food with the hope of getting that into more pets' bowls and spreading this education. Dogs and cats need actual food because as it stood, 15 years ago, dogs and cats were just about the only animals on the planet who were not getting some fresh food. You go to the pet store, you get a guinea pig, they're going to say, make sure to give them some fresh veggies.
Yeah.
Every other animal on the planet is eating fresh, real food, except for dogs and cats. That's not right. And so he was an absolute pioneer in the food industry. I think he was the one who made the first food designed truly for these animals.
Wow. So many things came to mind when you were telling that story. And so the day we're recording this, the day before, so yesterday, there was a huge congressional hearing about our food supply here in
Mhm.
the United States. And just see such a correlation. Like Dr. Ian Billinghurst says that we have the most scientific research on food for humans, dogs, and cats. And at the same time, humans, dogs, and cats are the sickest animals on the planet.
Right. We're
So,
eating
like,
the very worst diets. Yeah.
yes. And one of the things I heard from the congressional hearing yesterday, which I would love to listen to all of it, it's too fresh. I haven't had a chance yet. But one of the
Mhm.
things that I did hear was that we have chemists making our food in America. We don't have farmers making our food in America. And that is what is killing all of us. So it's it to me, I guess I've been in this so long that it's like a no-brainer. Like, obviously, we all need to be eating real food, but that's not how our society is set up. And I know back in my teens and 20s, I was very much in the mindset of convenience, and this is it's they're selling it to me, so it's got to be fine and no big deal, and
Right. Yeah.
not paying attention to how my body actually felt, and not paying
Yeah.
attention to the fact that I was literally spending my entire paycheck at the vet's office every month.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
it's there's such a huge correlation. So there are two things about Steve's Real Food that I think are some of the most important things for us to kind of shift our minds around to think. One is that it is actually made with quality ingredients like you would be buying for yourself, or if you were buying food for your dog.
Yes.
And it's not made with synthetics. So those are like my two big, like, some of the biggest issues I have with
Mhm.
the highly processed foods that most of America, most of the, first world feeds our dogs and
Yeah.
cats, is that I don't think people understand the actual quality of those ingredients. Like, it's very easy to watch a commercial. Like,
Mhm.
I don't have TV. I don't have regular TV, so I rarely see commercials. So like if I'm in a hotel or, a doctor's office or something, and I happen to see a commercial, I'm like, what in the world are they trying to tell us? It like boggles my mind. But like I
Yeah.
happened to see one the other day, and it was like the first two ingredients are real chicken. It's like
What
I
about the rest of them? Every ingredient is important. So I've been big on this lately.
yeah,
So a lot of people used to try to figure out, how do I choose a good food, right?
yeah,
And they would say, well, look at the first five ingredients. The first five ingredients, that's most of what's in the bag. I say, look at every ingredient. Okay, the first five absolutely should be meat and organ and some bone if it's uncooked. It should be that stuff that these pets really need. But everything in there should be doing something for your pet. A lot of these starchy potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, barley, this stuff that they add, that's not in there for your pet. That's there to help it make it through the machine at the factory. That has nothing to do with your pet. But look at every ingredient. And I always like starting at the bottom. Now,
yeah.
that's a lie. I start at the top, of course, because I want to see, that there's meat in there. But immediately I go down to the bottom, because it is those added vitamins and minerals that tell you how much confidence the company has in their ingredients. That tells you how much they've processed their ingredients. If you look at the bottom and there are 20 or 30 added vitamins and minerals, that's pretty much all of the essential ones. That means that they think that the ingredients that they put into their food were so nutritionally deficient that they needed to pretty much add everything back in. And when you do that, sure, you get those 20 or 30 necessary, essential nutrients, the ones that if you don't get, you will die probably within a year or two. But you're missing out on so much more. There are 20 to 30,000 naturally occurring compounds in fresh foods. And when you destroy those with heat and processing, and then more heat and more processing and storage and heat and processing, you miss out on all of them. You don't get any of those. Some of those have wonderful effects on our health. I mean, they say eat the rainbow, right? Because these different, the different things that give color to fruits and vegetables also have positive effects on our health. But when you destroy those with heat and with processing, you're not getting any of that. Your dog or your cat, if all they're eating is processed food, they miss out on 19,980 possible compounds, or maybe 10,000 more than that. So I always look at all of the ingredients. How many nutrients are they replacing with man-made nutrients? If they're replacing a lot of them, it's heavily processed food.
Yeah, that's a big red flag for me too. I'm just like, nope, not doing that at all. It is absolutely
Right.
not on my approved list. And there's also a big push lately that the big pet food is trying to indoctrinate our veterinarians with. They did really, really well with the grain-free. Like, they did so well that
Yes.
is still there, that people are still passing around this meme.
I know.
But now they're trying to, I think, at least this is what I'm hearing and understand, they're trying to educate veterinarians that the ingredients don't matter at all.
I heard that in the store 10 years ago.
It's
The
crazy.
representative from one of the big companies came around. And in fact, I think they had shirts. It was something like, ingredients don't matter, balance matters. Ingredients do matter and balance matters. They both matter. Both of those things are important.
Yeah.
Everything you put in your body, and food is the biggest variable. You can put all sorts of different things in your body. One company years ago, and I've been throwing this example around a lot, but I kind of hate to because it's so overused. But at the same time, I haven't heard it for a while. And Dr. Jeff Grognet, wonderful veterinarian, he's doing a bunch of really cool stuff. He repeated it to me recently, and I was like, yes, I had forgotten about that. But there's actually a company years ago that made a complete and balanced pet food out of a leather boot, sawdust, and motor oil. You can, yeah, absolutely. And of course, they added vitamins and minerals to it, but that's not what food should be about. It shouldn't be about taking things that aren't really ideal for this animal and stacking them in a way that nourishes that animal. That's not what food is. These days we kind of think of food as something to make the hungry go away, right? I'm hungry. I need to eat to make that feeling go away so I can get on with my day. Food is about so much more than we've kind of lost our relationship with food, which is a little bit sad, obviously. But I see a huge push nowadays, more and more people realizing how important food is, how important ingredients are, how important balance is, how it all comes together, and how you just can't replicate that in a laboratory on the cheap. Nobody can manufacture what nature has been creating for 4 billion years. What are we doing even trying or pretending that we can? We can't. And there's no reason to. That food still grows naturally around us. We haven't destroyed the environment enough that food doesn't surround us anymore. We just need to turn to it. It's there for us right now.
I love that the optimism that you have for that. We do still have the ability. We still have time.
We still have time. Absolutely.
Change.
Yeah. We believe that is our big thing at Steve's. Okay, we believe that the only way standards will get better tomorrow is if we support those who are doing better right now, which is why we've got our foods really dialed in. We've been making these for 26 years. They're perfect. And we've been able to turn from the kitchen and look outside. I shouldn't have used the word perfect. They're fantastic. And we're now able to turn from the kitchen and look outside and try to figure out how we can improve things, because every single decision we make, every move we make has an impact, sends out ripples. And so when we buy meat from a regenerative farmer, from a farmer who's working on regenerating the soil and making it more hospitable for plants tomorrow, we're voting for that better tomorrow. When we're buying produce that's the same, grown by regenerative farmers, we're pushing right now for that better tomorrow, for that tomorrow where we rely more on food. And we do that with every single aspect of the business. are the bags that we put our food in are even produced using solar power. They're, I think they're the first in the industry to be fully interstero certified recyclable. Like every single move we make. This year, we actually teamed up with this awesome company called 4Ocean.
Yeah,
They're a
I've heard of them.
global, yeah, they're a global cleanup company. They go and they pull plastics from the ocean, from waterways, from rivers, from beaches, um, and they pull massive tons. And then how they do it is they set up little groups of people, in these of locals, and they pay them really fair wages. So they help to lift the local economy at the same time. But they're just pulling all of this garbage out of the ocean. So this year we teamed up with them. 4,000 pets who eat Steve's are plastic neutral this year. And we're going to keep going until every single pet who eats Steve's is plastic neutral. But that's my point, is it's not too late.
Yeah,
We can make a difference. The world is not too late to turn around, and we just need to find those who are doing it and vote for them and support them. And
absolutely. And so with Steve's, before I want to talk about HPP. That's a big,
yeah,
big topic. But before we talk about that, I want to just go through what you actually offer to consumers. So you have dog food and cat food, but you have frozen raw, you have freeze dried. The cat food is called Quest.
hmm
So if people are looking for Steve's, that you might actually see Quest for your cats. And then there's a prey model diet that you have. So
yep,
can you tell me a little bit about the
yeah.
product lines and the offerings that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're very simple. We don't want to inundate people. And if food, when it comes down to it, food is pretty simple. We don't need 17 different tiers of, you know, gently baked kibble, heavily baked kibble, all of this different stuff. So we're very simple, very small. We have 3 lines of food and some treats. And so the first line, these were the original diets, or the BARF diets, biologically appropriate raw foods. And these are designed both for dogs and cats, which is a really cool thing. These are the ones that Steve Brown designed years and years and years ago. And those are available in freeze-dried or frozen. They come in 7 different flavors. They're 80% meat, organ, and bone, 15% awesome produce like broccoli, romaine lettuce, watermelon, cantaloupe. Really cool stuff with a lot of phytonutrients. And then 5% natural supplements. And when I say natural supplements, we're not adding, it's not like a supplement like you think, like a pill.
Hmm.
We're adding goat milk, we're adding kelp, we're adding chia seed, all of these wonderful natural things that help to balance the formulas. So those are our original diets. And again, those are for both dogs and cats. But we recognize that cats really are prey model predators. They do well on a prey model diet. And so that's where the Quest comes in. We have Quest in freeze-dried and frozen. And that one comes in 4 different flavors. That one is 95% meat, organ, and bone. And then 5% the same supplements, kelp, all that great stuff. Then the third line of food we have is the prey model diet. Now, these are basically the same formulas as the Quest. They're just only available in a 20-pound box of patties, of frozen patties. Just for those folks, those prey model purists who do want to feed a prey model diet to their dog or want to include their own phytonutrients. They say, you know what, I have my own fermented blend I love to add or something like that. I just want a really good balanced food that I can then add some stuff on top. I really do believe that dogs do better on that kind of barf diet with a little bit of the vegetable component. They get tons of fantastic prebiotic fiber, and again, you get those phytonutrients from those plants.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the 3 food lines, and then we also have these really awesome protein bites, and these are actually powered by Gussie's Gut. So we were talking about Dr. Ian Billinghurst
Yeah.
before, and Dr. Ian Billinghurst and his partner Rob Ryan make up Gussie's Gut. And Gussie's Gut makes this incredible fermented blend of superfoods for dogs. And you can use it as a topper. They made us a special blend to go into these protein bites. So these are 80% meat and then 20% fermented extras like organic green apple, organic ginger, organic cauliflower, slippery elm bark, all of this really, really cool stuff. Um, so that fleshes out our offerings. It's very simple. It's small. It's designed to really, really give your pet a strong, strong foundation. And we believe heavily in rotating, so all of our diets are very easy to rotate between as well.
One of the things that I really love is that you are including raw goat's milk in the
Mhm.
recipes.
Every single ingredient, every single recipe has that raw goat's milk in there. Yep.
It is like magic for me. Um,
Mhm.
it is staple in my dog's diet. I consider it a modified fast. She only gets goat's milk for breakfast and then
Mhm.
has her dinner in the
Mhm.
evening. And I try to get it in my cats as much as possible, but it usually does end up more in their food than just a standalone like it is for my
Right.
dog. But I just think it's magic. And I also, I mean, I've had Billy Hookman on it a number of times, and
Right.
he talks about how we don't really even know everything that's in this. It's a reproductive food, and it
Mhm.
changes constantly, and it's like we don't even know all of the nutrients that are in it. So
Right.
it's just like this magic superfood to me.
Yeah, I heard him say once that it's one of the only things in nature that was designed to be food.
Yeah,
It's truly made to be food, whereas, animals, plants and stuff like that, they don't really want to be, eaten that much, but this is designed to be eaten. Yeah.
yeah. So we have these amazing recipes, and the frozen recipes mimic the freeze dried recipes, right? There's no recipe change.
It's the exact same thing. We take some of the nuggets that are frozen and ready to be packaged, and we just roll them over to the freeze dryers and shove them in there. Easy as that.
Got it. So I would love to talk to you a little bit about HPP, or high pressure
Mhm.
processing, is something that I think the raw feeding community specifically gets a little, their britches are a little big.
Yeah.
I hate to
It's a
say that.
controversial topic. It's a controversial topic, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of that controversy is based off of older information.
Yeah. So there are definitely some purists out there who are like, absolutely not. I never, ever, ever want to recommend a food that is HPP'd that's not truly raw. And then there are other people that say, it's totally fine.
Mhm.
You're killing the big three, the salmonella, listeria, E. coli. Like, we're making this food safe.
We're making it accessible so
I've,
pet owners don't freak out and go, "Oh no, they had a recall. I can't feed my pet fresh food anymore."
yeah,
It's there for the peace of mind, right?
yeah. So that's kind of where I land with it, is
Mhm.
that I will look at an individual animal and see how they do on the food. And if they
Mhm.
do well on the food, then what's the problem?
Yeah, and that's what drew me to Steve's so long ago, because I carried like probably 12 different raw brands, and I tried with all of them because I handpicked everything in the store.
Mhm.
So I wanted it to succeed, or else I would look like a fool.
So I think one of the arguments is that the pressure is so great. It's greater than the pressure of the Mariana Trench, is what
Mhm.
keeps getting thrown around. I'm assuming that's accurate. That's what I learned. I was telling you before we hit
Mhm.
record. I listened to a presentation at AFCO about HPP, and that's what she was saying as well. The argument with that is that it denatures the food.
Mhm.
So it's technically not raw. At the same time, if you want to be a purist, then freezing also breaks the cell wall. Like, where do you draw the line? And what is
Right.
safe? What is not safe? Is it still providing the same nutrients? Is it not? Like, that's, to
Right. I
me,
mean, a leaf of lettuce is grown less nutritious 2 hours after you harvest it. Like it's when we really start splitting hairs. But the denaturing thing, you can absolutely, I believe, apply enough pressure and hold it for enough time to totally denature the food. I think you can transform it. The thing a lot of folks don't realize is that high pressure processing is a very variable thing. You can change a lot of the variables. You can change the time that it's under pressure. You can change the time, the pressure that you're using. You can control the temperature in that vessel, because when HPP was first used for raw pet foods, it was not really dialed in at all,
Mhm.
not nearly, and it would leave the food kind of gummy. and it would undoubtedly destroy some of the nutrients. And it would, you pretty much sterilizing the food, and you're partially cooking it. And, undoubtedly you're losing a bunch of very sensitive compounds. I talk all the time about all those different compounds in food. Well, if you heat it up a little bit, you lose some terpenes at 105 degrees, you know? So you have some very sensitive things in there. However, so a lot of people may remember Steve's back in the day, up until about 2014, probably. We were very anti-HPP. We were in that camp as well. No, you cannot. You're going to totally ruin it. But then we realized that we wanted to reach more pets. We wanted to make this accessible to people so they could feel safe coming onto it. We don't necessarily believe the dogs or cats need it, but we want people to feel safe feeding it so that more pets can get this, so that more pets can eat healthier and feel healthier and live better lives. So we spent over 2 years. We teamed up with a company called Hyperbaric, and we spent over 2 years doing research and testing and tweaking. And at the same time, we were testing every other method of food safety out there under the sun. We tested fermentation. We tested all sorts of different stuff because we just wanted the best. We didn't want, we didn't set our heart on one way of doing it. We just wanted the best. So we spent over 2 years working directly with Hyperbaric, testing, tweaking. And we arrived at this process that I like to call gentle HPP, which is a lower hold time, low pressure. It's in there for less than 2 minutes. It does destroy your big three, your Salmonella, Listeria, E. coli. They are more sensitive to pressure than a lot of other bacteria. It does not destroy the probiotic content. A lot of the probiotics in goat milk are actually very resistant to pressure, but a lot of other, bacteria as well is surprisingly resistant to the amount of pressure that we're using. And so we really did not decrease the probiotic content by that much. And I used to have a figure, but I don't remember what it is now. But it wasn't that much. It surprised me when I read about it, because I was working in store at the time, and my staff was like, Steve's just started HPPing. They're done here. And I was like, well, hold on. I trust these guys. Let's see if they wrote something about it. And they did. They actually published all these results, and you could still find them on the website. You can go on and you can see a batch of food before and after it's been HPP'd. And you can see the 95 different nutrients that we were testing for. Across the board, most of them actually increased a little bit. Some of them decreased a little bit, and then 4 of them decreased to a level that was more than 10%, probably less than 20%. And we were still above AFCO, but we wanted it where it was. And so we reduced the bone content a little bit. We increased the organ meat, and we increased the muscle meat. And those little changes were enough to completely rebalance it right where we wanted. And then we looked at the enzymes. The enzymes were still active and still in the food. What am I missing? I feel like there's some other thing that we look at a lot when it comes to, because we want to produce a safe but living food. We want it to still be fresh, raw food by anyone's measure, by any way that we can measure it right now. And I kind of got off track there.
No, it's good.
I kind of got off track because I wanted to, connect that to a lot of the older research and a lot of the older stuff and the older methods of doing it. And there are a lot of companies now that I think that still use it very aggressively. You do see companies that sterilize their food. You do see companies that want to eliminate all of that or all of, the bacterial content, all of the microbial content. And then they'll go and add some probiotics back into it. And then they'll add some vitamins and minerals back into it because they've been destroyed by that pressure. That's completely against who we are.
Yeah, and I think that because there isn't really that standardization, that's why possibly why so many people in industry are still anti.
That's a great point. Yeah, because I think even the people who are using it very aggressively, I think have gotten a lot better at it. Before, I don't think they were controlling temperature as much. And when you put things under pressure, the temperature is going to rise. And so it would really kind of mess up the texture and all of that. Whereas now they have that dialed in. But that's a great point, that there are a lot of companies who are probably using it more aggressively. And that may be what's just kind of giving the whole thing a bad name.
I think so. Also, any change is difficult for people in general. Like, people don't take
change.
To change.
Yeah.
So even when we have new information, or relatively new information like the before and after studies on the nutrients and being able to adjust the formulation so that the after still meets what you want it to be. It just, I think, takes people time to start to accept it and
I
understand it
and we've
and
been
learn about it.
watching that process from within.
Hmm.
There was a lot more resistance 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And more people are coming around. I will say that at the pet store level, when you're talking directly with consumers, they loved hearing that there was a safety step. Not only were we doing that, but we were testing and holding every batch until we got the results back from a third-party lab. They loved hearing that stuff because they care about these animals a lot,
Hmm.
and they want to make sure they're safe. And you have people who are coming off of kibbles and coming off of canned foods, and they've been hearing these horror stories about raw food, you know, and we want it to be accessible and easy for that starter person who's just still holding their breath a little bit. I'm a little nervous about this, but we'll try it, see what happens.
Yeah.
Um, but at the store level, a lot of people it gave them a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I do think it does, like, as you were saying, that's one of my bigger things. And I have had clients because I do one-on-one consultations, and I definitely have had clients that were just like, no, I can't feed raw. I can't feed raw. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, what if we try this HPP'd food and explain to them, the
Hmm.
kill step and what it does? And they're like, okay, I could try that. Like it can be a selling point for some people.
Makes it accessible. It makes it a slightly smaller step to climb onto. So
Hmm.
people who don't want to step as high can still get up here and their pets can still eat really good food. And when I fed it, I mean, yeah, I had so many dogs at the store level. When I fed it against other brands that were using other methods of safety control, there was no discernible difference I could see. Again, the pets who were eating the Steves did so well for such a long time that's what drew me to the company. It was, wow,
Hmm.
this is performing so well. I want to be involved with this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just one of those people that I feed such a huge variety to my dogs and cats that, like,
Yeah,
one day they may be eating an HPP food and the next day they may be eating a fermented food and the next day,
that's the way to do it.
you
That's
know?
awesome right there. Yeah, absolutely. I always say, find a few that you trust. Really do
Yeah.
your homework, look into them, get to know them. You only have to do it once. Find a few that you trust and rotate between. I
Hmm.
usually have my rock, and that makes up the bulk of their diet. And then
Yeah,
I'll rotate around with other stuff and add other things in. And they get fresh eggs from my chickens all the time and all sorts of fun stuff. It's
absolutely.
food. It's not a prescription.
Yes. So that kind of brings up another, well, actually earlier you were talking about you only have these, the frozen, the freeze dried, the pre-model. If you don't want to answer this, that is okay too. I can always edit. One of the things that people tend to get stuck on, especially when they're coming from a big box store or even a veterinarian's office, buying food from the veterinarian's office, onto interested in a fresh food diet, they are trapped in this mindset of needing to feed different foods to different breeds or to different size dogs or to different. So being so intentional about making it so simple. Can you talk to that at all?
Yes. When you go back to basics, all of these animals would be eating the same thing. Okay, dogs and cats, they'd be eating slightly different amounts of the same things. Food is so much more simple than we're making it nowadays. Marketing has made us think that I need this kibble for my golden retriever, and I need this kibble for my German shepherd, and I need this kibble for my 7-year-old golden, and this for my 3-year-old golden. And it's brilliant, the marketing that they've done, because that puts you in a box. That makes you feel like you have to go with this brand that has a food specifically made for your dog. This one says that it's for a middle-aged golden retriever named Chuck. I have to buy it. It's the only one on the market that says that. And so really, a lot of that is just marketing designed to aim directly at a category of folks. Food is so much simpler than that. Look outside. Look at your garden or your neighbor's garden if you don't have a garden, or their neighbor's garden if your neighbor doesn't have a garden. Go to your local farm. That is food. It's so simple and it's so easy. And it's not nearly as complicated as a lot of these companies would have you believe. Honestly, I would be an advocate for everyone just making their own pet food, but it's a full-time job.
It
It takes a lot of
can
time.
be.
And so, yeah. And so we're just here to make it easy and I want to make a point here too. It's not all or nothing. You can absolutely feed that golden retriever medium breed food to your dog and then throw on a few nuggets of some great fresh raw food. It's so easy to do that. And I had so many folks who were doing that, at the store. There were many folks who said, oh, it's just cost prohibitive. I can't do all raw. You don't have to. You don't have to transition fully onto anything. You can feed some of this and some of that, and that's okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. That is a big, especially now in today's
Yeah, yeah.
economy.
I
Uh,
saw huge differences in my dog. In my golden retriever, he was 4 years old when I started doing this. And I was just giving him 20% of his diet in fresh food. That's it. 20% of it, he'd get one Steve's patty a day. And then the rest was in kibble. And I
yeah.
still saw huge changes within a month. And that's what really won me over and blew my mind. I was like, wow, I believe in this stuff. I am gung-ho. This is it. Because I've tried all the supplements on the shelf. Trust me, I was running the store. I had access to all of them, and I tried everything. And
Yeah.
there was nothing like just feeding some fresh food, just believing in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I fall for the same thing sometimes. I'll sit there, I'll be eating my oven pizza, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, man, I feel kind of sluggish and low. Maybe there's some great supplement out there that will give me more energy and make me feel more focused and fill in the blanks in my diet. And I'm like, "Hey, what am I doing? Just eat
Yeah.
more fresh food.
Yeah. I,
Switch out
d-
for a salad."
I will say I am not big on eating organs myself. So I
Mhm.
do supplement desiccated organs. I do that. But outside of that, my supplements are pretty simple.
Mhm.
My supplements are all really whole food based. And
Mhm.
then I take CBD because a full spectrum CBD
The
because
CBD
I
is awesome.
like, yeah.
Yeah,
But so does
absolutely.
my dog and so do my cats. Like,
Mhm.
but that's, yeah, I have definitely been on a kick, especially since I became a pet health coach. I'm just so very focused on, because so many people, they ask whatever the problem is, what can I give my pet for X? Well,
Yes.
my first question is always, what are they eating? Always
Let's
100% of
start.
the time. What are they eating?
Nutrition is the foundation of health. Okay. If you have a house that's sinking into the ground and starting to crack apart in places, you wouldn't think, oh man, what kind of paint is going to cover this up? You'd be thinking, we need to address the foundation. We need to get this thing stable. And it's the same for every animal. You have to give them that strong foundation, and then you can start working on other stuff. But the body wants to be healthy. All of these pets have health issues. The body wants to be healthy. You just have to give it what it needs to use all of its cool tools. It's full of amazing tools to help move you toward health. We get focused a lot on health, right? When it
Yeah.
comes to pets and food, we get focused a lot on that. And sometimes I have to reel myself back in because not only, yes, we want them to be healthy. We want to feed great diets so they feel healthy, so they live a long time. It's not just about how long you live, but it's about how alive you feel, and food helps get you there. But these are animals who love food. They love flavors. Their sense of smell is so much more powerful than us. They may be able to enjoy food on a level that we can't even imagine because a big part of flavor is scent. And so to relegate them to eating, the same crunchy stuff all the time, or even just the same diet all the time, give them some variety, give them some real fresh food. I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there. I don't know
No,
where
it's
we
totally
started, but
fine. It's totally fine. So I want to circle back around to
Mm,
Raw University, Steve's Raw U.
mhm.
That's set up for pet parents, correct?
That is absolutely set up for pet parents. Yep.
Okay.
It's If you're completely new to raw or completely new to pet food, you're going to learn a lot and you're going to have a good time. If you are a veteran, if you've been feeding raw for 10 years, you're still going to learn some cool stuff and you're going to have a good time. So I would definitely recommend anyone check it out. Jump around to the episodes that interest you. Episode 3 is my personal favorite, but episode 1 is a great place to start.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm I'm gonna go through. I'm one of those people, and what's really interesting, and I don't know how woo woo you are. Most men in general tend not to be very woo-woo. But I had my birth chart read this morning.
Mm.
And she was like, yeah, you definitely, like, you feel like yourself when you're learning. You always want to learn. And I'm like, I absolutely always want to learn. So it doesn't matter what all the certifications, blah, 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 whatever. I have literally like a checklist that sits on my desk that I'm like, this is the one that I'm going to go through next. And this
That's
is
the
the one
next
that I'm going to.
educational program. Right. Yeah. It's the way to do it, though. You just keep learning. It's honestly, you have to do it to keep up nowadays. But
Yeah,
I agree. I'm a lifetime learner. I
for sure.
love the old classic. I love books.
Mm,
I think you learn more from a book than you can learn from, you know, you just can't fit nearly as much information in a lot of the other media that we consume. If you
that's
think
very
about
true.
listening to a book on tape, I could read a book in a couple days because I'm a pretty fast reader. If I tried to listen to that on tape, that would be hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
I know. I think the Forever Dog book,
Mm-hmm.
so just my lifestyle, I used to read paper books and it's my favorite thing to do. But my lifestyle right now just I don't have the time.
I get
So
it. It's hard sometimes.
I do listen. I listen on to audiobooks. But when I read the Forever Dog, or I listened to the Forever Dog, what I would do was the hour or whatever that I listened, after I was done with that hour, I would go back into the book and like highlight the things that I'm like, I remember I want to go back to that, or like dog
Yeah.
ear, different pages, whatever. And it
Yeah.
did. That was one of the longer audiobooks that I want to say was like 20 hours or something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I used to, because I had an hour commute to work and an hour back when I was working in store. So I used to listen to audiobooks all the time because I didn't have nearly as much time for reading.
Yeah.
But then when I did have time for reading, I was like, oh my God, I get so much more done. I can fit so much more into this short time.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on audiobooks. I love audiobooks. If you have a
Yeah.
good narrator, it's like, oh,
hmm
this feels nice,
It does make all the difference in the world. Oh my gosh. I'm
Yeah.
in a book club, and sometimes somebody, we rotate who's picking the book. And sometimes somebody will pick a book and just not knowing, you don't know who the narrator is going to be before
Sure.
you just picked on the book. And it's like, man, that was so hard because the narrator was so much.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Feeding Dogs by Dr. Connor Brady. You read it? Yes.
I have
Yes.
started it, but there is no audiobook. So
You have to do it old school. Yeah.
yeah.
It's a hard book to get all the way through because it's like you read a page and you're like, wow, I have to go think for 15 minutes. That blew my mind. And then you read the next page and you're like, oh, there goes another 15 minutes. I have to go think. Like it I loved that book. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I need a petition to get him to do an audio version.
Oh, right. And read it himself,
Yes.
please. That Irish brogue. Wow. Yes, please.
100%.
Oh,
Yes.
my goodness. Yes. I am in that camp.
So okay, feeding at least 20%.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I very much appreciate that even though you are here representing Steve's and is a wonderful food, it is balanced with whole foods. We're not using synthetics, which is one of, because I don't even, like, I don't care how many times people are like, I need you to recommend me a kibble. I cannot do it. I'm sorry. I cannot do it. But when I'm looking at other foods, fresh foods, that is the first thing I look at is what are we balancing this with? Are we balancing it with food? Are we balancing it with synthetics? If we're balancing it with like one or two, okay, I
Right. Some of
understand.
these things are
AFCO is
hard to
hard.
get.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But if there's a whole paragraph, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. I'm not falling in line. So, but even just doing 20% in the bowl is a huge
Huge.
improvement
Mhm.
for our pets. And I know that cats can be more difficult to transition to foods, but I think, do you have any recommendations there? Have you ever, you ran
Yes.
a pet store. So what are your recommendations for
Yeah, and
cats?
absolutely. Actually, in Raw U, we have a whole section about transitioning cats.
Oh,
I've
awesome.
made several videos for the Steve's Real Food page about transitioning cats, and I actually brought the two crazy cat ladies onto our own show, and a big chunk of that was to talk about transitioning cats. And every time we probably covered new information and new tips and new ideas because they're tricky, but
Yeah.
it's possible. It's possible, it's doable. If your kid was eating Snickers bars every day for breakfast, he wouldn't want to change either. But you have to stick with it. You know it's better for them. So that's all it comes down to for me. Patience and persistence. You want to play with the 3 T's to begin with. Texture, temperature, and forgot what the other one is, so we're going to say taste. It may not be the right flavor for your cat necessarily. But I always recommend people start slow, take a few of those thawed nuggets, and when I say few, there are several thousand of these in a bag probably. It's about this big. It's very small.
Tiny, yeah.
Just take 2 of those and set them either on the side of your cat's bowl or underneath his food. And don't mix it in and make him work for it and make him go, oh, this is such a pain to eat now. Thanks a lot. I have negative association with this food. Make it easy on him. Make it easy on yourself. Buy yourself a really nice bottle of whiskey and set it up on top of the fridge and tell yourself, once that cat's transitioned, I get that. Be patient. Give yourself a reward like that. Yes, put a couple nuggets just on the side of the bowl. Let them leave it there for 2 weeks. It's not the same nuggets, obviously. But just do it every day for 2 weeks. You're not going to waste food. It's fine. If your cat still hasn't tried it, what you can do is take some of your cat's kibble and smash it up into little bits and roll the nuggets around in there and coat them in that kibble and then set them on the side. Okay, now it's a little bit more like something that you're familiar with. Cats are imprint animals. This is biological programming that's designed to keep them alive. Where they came from in Africa, it is so awesome because they want to hunt 10 to 20 times a day. And if they had to learn by trial and error, we wouldn't have cats. They'd be dead. Every one of them would jump on a scorpion or a snake or something that you can't eat, and they wouldn't have made it. So this programming is very strong for them, and it really gets them stuck on one type of food or whatever food they were introduced to when they were young. But you can overcome it with patience and persistence and sometimes a little creativity. You might have to turn it into a game. You might have to trick them into eating it. You might have to smear a little on their paw and make them lick it off on their own and go, oh, this isn't poison. It tastes delicious, actually. But that's my biggest tip is patience and persistence. There's a lot more that we could talk about when it comes to converting cats. The 2 Crazy Cat Ladies are a fantastic resource. And so I would, if you have a cat and you're struggling to transition, or if you're unsure if you want to start, he's eating this now, I don't want to rock the boat. If that's the position you're in, go check out some of their resources and some of their videos, and they'll help walk you through it.
They're awesome.
Just be patient, be persistent, and never starve your cat.
Thank you for throwing that in at the end. I appreciate that very much.
Yes. Just a few days of not eating can take them right to the vet's office or worse.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
It's okay to use a little bit of hunger.
Mm-hmm.
If your cat's used to that all-day buffet, if he's used to having the food out all the time, switching to meal times goes a long way. One easy way to stop the all-day buffet is, I'm stealing that from the 2 Crazy Cat Ladies, is to pick up the bowl at night. Mm-hmm. And that way, in the morning, he's hungry, but he's not starving.
Yeah.
And you're not going to fight him over breakfast, right? You're going to set down his new breakfast or some of the new stuff that you want him to try, but you're also going to let him eat his regular food if that's really what he wants. A little creativity is the way, the key.
Yeah. So to learn more about raw food, real food, fresh food, and transitioning cats, it's learnaboutraw.com, and that will also be on in the show notes. Mm-hmm. So when you can check out the show notes and get there as well. All the links will be there. So with Steve's Real Food, this is just an indie pet, or how can people find it?
So in almost, I wouldn't say all of your independent pet stores, but a huge chunk of them, we are either there or the store manager can order us for you. I did, again, I ran pet stores for a long time. Those special orders were the name of the game. It's not an inconvenience. It's not a pain in the butt. It's that store manager or that owner is happy to have you coming in and supporting the local community. So I would 100% recommend trying to find it locally, even if you walk in and you don't see it on the shelves. It's available all over the country. Most stores should be able to order it for you at no additional cost. That helps support that local community and helps build that relationship with that retailer. You can also find us and order it directly from us at a site called rawpetfood.com. So that's another way to do it. That way you can just have it delivered to your house.
Awesome. Well, Brad, I appreciate all of the information, all of the knowledge, and the extra little tidbit in there about HPP. I don't know what it is about my audience, but they just eat it up. So thank you.
Controversial topic. It's a controversial topic. If you guys have questions about it, reach out to us. I'm not saying don't talk to Jessica. I just mean you're welcome to reach out to us if you have questions about it. We're here to answer them. And when you contact our customer service team, you get one of us who works for Steve's. If you get me, you get one of my colleagues. There's a young lady who does it most of the time. She's far more brilliant than I am. So you get a real person who works for Steve's, and you can ask us questions if you have questions or concerns.
I love that. That is so important. The transparency, the connection, the being able to call and get your questions answered.
Yes. Yeah.
So important. So many pet parents do not do that.
We have a lot of people who call and they're surprised that somebody picks up.
Yeah.
I've called 4 other brands and I can't get a call back. It's been weeks.
Isn't that crazy? But yeah.
Blows my mind. Yeah.
We've been conditioned for that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you again, Brad. And guys, I absolutely love bringing this kind of information to you. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out to Brad at Steve's, you absolutely can. If you want to reach out to me with more questions, I can get them answered for you as well. Please check us out. Go to thepetparentingreset.com. Get all of Brad's contact info. Follow Steve's on all the socials. And absolutely, if you have any questions, DM me on Instagram. I love to hear from you. And with that, I am going to say thank you again, Brad, and everybody have a fabulous rest of your week. Please give your pets some extra love from me and Brad this week. So until next week, bye guys. It's trying to stop.